And the broken toe shows that too. I actually wanted to start this. I had this whole plan of how to start it, and for the past months I've had these plans and all these jokes. You guys are so funny. And I came up with the idea that actually, I'm not really sure of the population in here and what everybody's working on right now, but I think they kind of know the challenges in terms of homelessness, employment difficulties, stigma, mental illness. Once an inmate releases from the prison or jail, it's no longer kind of our kid. So I just kind of wanted to talk a little bit about the importance of mental health in treatment programming for reentry and why it's so important. I'll try and keep a little bit of numbers in there, but I don't have them all in my head, and this writing is too small. We'll see how it goes. Like they said, I am a clinical psychologist, federal law enforcement officer also, for the Federal Bureau of Prisons. I've worked in pretty much every area of psychology, clinical psychology and criminal justice that I could, to figure out where I actually belonged. You know, I was told in the beginning never to say, I've always wanted to, because that's not possible. You're not sitting in the womb being like, I've always wanted to get a cup of coffee. So I figured, you know, I've always wanted to do something for someone else. I can say that. Not every minute of the day, but most of the time growing up, it was just how we saw things in our house, how we saw things in our community. You just did for others, and they did unto you. And you know, what I can say is that I can't answer the question of why I do what I do. Somehow, by default, I ended up here. I just constantly, the bad kids kept being put in my lap. And you know, you do what you can. If you can do it and you love it, then why not do it? For a long time I said I do it because no one else can do it and I can. That's not the truth. You can't live life like that. I do it because I love it. I feel at home in prison, unfortunately. Yeah, I feel at home in prison. And that's okay. You know, I can still interact with people to a certain extent when I'm out in public, when they let me. So it's very difficult when you go into a certain system. The state system, and I really only worked in New York and Nevada, but the state system, there's a lot more leeway for ideas. And that kind of goes across the board with even the correctional staff and the other staff, because staff are important, they're like an integral part. In the federal system where I am now, staff are an integral part of making it work, but the policy hangs over your head 24/7. And so I have to correct, because I'm just a nerd. I wasn't the first person to implement the trauma research with males. I was the third. And I was the first to do it in a penitentiary. All the other treatment, and as you'll see, if you ever, I would love to talk about it today, but I don't have the time. Most prisons, the treatment programs, the ones that will really make you succeed once you get out, often occur at camps and low security prisons. So camps and low security prisons tend to be blue collar crimes, you know, first time caught with methamphetamine, kind of low level crimes. That also, though, tends to include and shut out a large proportion of society. Society, our proportion of society, meaning mine, medium security, and penitentiaries, and then the supermax. Those are where, and I assume, a lot of the people who we work with, that's where very little programming is happening because of the security level. But it's also where it's a very different population. You have a range of ethnicities. You have severe mental illness. You have people who, and the majority of them, I would say, you're trying to rehabilitate. It's difficult to rehabilitate someone if they never learned it in the first place. And what are we actually trying to get them to learn? Our way. Just because they have a way of doing things, and that's their way, it works for them. Even if they're in prison it works for them. So that's their normal. So a lot of times, it's very important to think about the fact that the programs and where they are being targeted are not being targeted towards that 700,000 inmates who release every year, and then 800,000 that come back. It's not being directed towards where it's needed. When I discuss security levels, I just wanted to do that quickly. Security levels, there's a whole bunch of different things around it, but you know, there's pretty much low or no security. Those are camps. Then there's low security and mediums. Those are going to be your correctional institutions. Right now, I'm actually placed, meaning I want to get back home to the pen, but I'm placed at the men's medium facility, which takes a lot of different types of inmates. There's a lot more programming than at a pen or at the max, but there's not nearly enough. And I was put there to fix it. So that's what I'm trying to do with broken toe. I'm very intimidating. So that's what I'm trying to do. The government likes to react. But now we're at a point where we can't react anymore. We are reacting to violence. We are reacting to unemployment, reacting to homelessness. But there was a point where we could have acted. And I don't know what that point is. I just know what I think. And of course it's correct. And it's so easy to do. But there was a point where we could have acted. So now what we have to do is just say, all right, pick a point and go with it. And so reentry is the talk. They like to say, oh, reentry, recidivism rates, all this stuff. But when it comes down to reentry, you really only start getting interventions for reentry around, if you're lucky, 18 months to the door. Okay? That is not, that's short term. In my mind, it's short term. You guys must be thinking 18 months, my goodness. And then they start giving you, okay, this is a family planning class. Go here for two sessions, and then the library has something going on. We'll send you there. And psychology somewhere over there. They're talking about your mind. So when all you guys are done, you can do that, and you've had reentry training. And I'm basically talking from the federal level. I haven't been in the state for a long time. So when we're looking at the idea of reentry, reentry should start, basically, they walk in the door, and that's when it's starting. That's when it's starting with rehabilitation, because if someone's been, even a 20-year-old male, if he's been behaving and learning and interacting the same way for 21 years, chances are 2 or 3 years hanging out with me and some people in education and religious services isn't going to change very much. So they need the time to figure out that something isn't right. Not that not that they're abnormal, but something isn't right. And in order to make it out there, I have to figure out what's going on. And the fact that they want to make it out there. There's a lot of guys who prison is very comfortable. A lot of times when they complain about it, I work with a lot of inmates that complain. There's true problems and then there's complaining. And they complain a lot. And I'm very, very stern, but I do care about every single one of them, genuinely. And I do say, so do you have a TV? Yes, you have 4. Do I? No. Do you get 3 square meals a day knowing that you're going to get it, regardless of how much money you have? Yes. Do I? Not when I was a grad student. Now, peanut butter and rice is a great thing, you know, not together. Yeah, I mean, sometimes. But, you know, and you have to say this repeatedly, because empathy for others and understanding others' position is not something that was taught to the 20-year-old who needs to be rehabilitated. What was taught to him was survival. That's survival mode. And right now, in the BOP, we're in survival mode. They say to me, your job is to keep them alive in here. I'm not in medical, but I'll try. You know, I can talk as much as possible and keep you from harming yourself or using drugs. But if I'm just managing you, then when you get out on the street, you're gonna fall. And they do put a lot on the people person type, so the psychologists and the social workers, they put a lot on us. The people in facilities and recreation, you know, they don't really have to do anything. So we're the ones, I have 1,500 babies, babies, who I have to try on my own to make them uncomfortable with the way they were living their life that seems so normal. And I have to do that in a range of 3 months to life. And even inmates who are given a life sentence deserve to live their life with dignity, no matter what they've done. It really, and that's a really important point to keeping them alive while they're in there. But my theory is, if we're going to spend all our time keeping them alive and babysitting them, why don't we actually do something while we're doing that, so that when they get outside, we're not opening the revolving door to have them come back in. One example, the main example that I wanted to give was an inmate that I dealt with. I'm very rarely emotional in front of inmates. So I'm not going to pretend like none of this bothers me and I'm just a rock-hard superwoman, because I'm not. Kleenex and I are like really good friends. So I rarely get very touched or very frustrated in front of inmates, in front of other people, by what's not being done or what wasn't done correctly. You can't get angry at the government and tell them, because then they'll teach you a lesson. So basically, I go in my office and I say, this is not fair. Nobody hears me, but I hear me. So this one inmate, 34-year-old black male, has more than 30 arrests in his history. We didn't have much of a history for him, because basically no one wanted him. So he grew up in the system, and when we tried to find parents or anyone for him, the genetic material we had in our hands saying, hey, you're the parent, they denied. Didn't want this guy. And you know what? I understand. He was a handful. He was a handful. But if you can find something that you like about them, you can do it. You can definitely do it, regardless of what area you're working in. And he came in directly from receiving a discharge one night, and I was warned about him, and I was just, you know, I'll see him tomorrow, I'll go home. I heard him, which meant I'm not seeing him tomorrow, I have to go. So he was a problem from the start. And I've learned that the ones who are treatment resistant are the ones who benefit most from treatment, because at some point, that little seed that you planted starts to bloom. You might not be there when it happens. But the only way that I can continue doing what I'm doing is to believe that whatever seed I planted has bloomed. Because then I'll just be kind of like a large part of the population that's just cynical and it doesn't, you know, nothing can happen, nothing works. So this young man had I don't even know how many different diagnoses. None of them made sense, and you know, every psychologist thinks they know the answer, and psychiatrists too. And so he had a whole bunch of diagnoses. And I tried the best I could to figure out which one he was and then figure out what to do with him. He had delusional disorder, and I'm not going to go into it, but he had delusional disorder means he believed, he had held certain beliefs that were not in reality, okay? But he also had schizophrenia. That one, I think was more the delusional and some of the damage done to his frontal lobe, but the big problem was the intellectual disability. He came directly from us, and I'm shocking you for a reason, because this is kind of like the why. He came to us from an inpatient hospital. So the Bureau has something called care levels, care 1, 2, 3, 4. Care 1, you can just come in and see the doctor when you need to. Care 2, you need to be seen once a month. Care 3, you need to be seen weekly, because if you're not, maybe something's going to go wrong. Care 4 is inpatient hospitalization. Each facility handles a certain amount of care levels. Our facility went up to a 3, even though we did not have the ability to handle a care 3 inmate. That's weekly, meaning you are seriously mentally ill. He was made a care 3 when he came to us, and he was put in the special housing unit. So here's a guy who's seriously mentally delusional with a criminal record that you put into a 9 by 11 box. So, got into the compound to one of our treatment programs. The inmates on the treatment programs ran him back to the SHU. Tried one more time, ran him back to the SHU. So what we ended up doing was, they used to call me, they used to say, please handle your child. Which is true. He became my child, but I wasn't looking for, he only had a 3-month sentence. And let me tell you the sentence. Trespassing at Union Station. 15 of his charges were trespassing at Union Station. Well, if you're homeless and you're picked up by the cops and they say, don't come back. Somebody who believes, delusional belief, that this is their home, they're going to come back. Well, okay, we'll just arrest you again, and there it goes. So his points start going up and his security level goes up. So every day, I went down there, as difficult as it was, to try and have some kind of small success. And a small success for officers, small success for staff is very different than a small success for me. I can't speak for other treatment providers, but for me. If every single day you're banging on that door and cursing my name, and then one day you don't curse, but you just say my name, I will be down there, and that is a success. That's what I'm talking about. I had to teach him to shower every day. Not go in the shower, but I had to teach him to shower every day. I had to teach him to change his clothes every day. I had to, not teach him, but we had like a chart, a reminder chart. Now these are basic things that you kind of learn as you grow up. But we don't know anything about his childhood. All we know is that he keeps going back to Union Station. No one's giving him anything. No one's giving me any help. So I decided to put on my social work hat, thanks to my sister, put on my social work hat and think about not just what the mental illness is, but how do we kind of manage it and how do we reach out to people involved with him. No one was involved in it with one person, a court guardian. So we talked to her, got a little more information, and then I started contacting people. And I'm actually kind of quiet. I don't network that much. But I started contacting people in DC who have a lot of I kind of want to say clout, but not really, with others in DC. We just refer to them as DC, and you just know they're important, you know. And by the end of it, I had people driving him to a halfway house in DC, where he was going to stay for a week. It wouldn't take him longer until the wraparound service that we found would take care of him.